Chapter 6150. Jacob quickly said, Irvin, although we have a good relationship, one code is the same. This idea was yours. If this thing can't be sold, you have to find a way to sell it for me for 200,000 yuan. Irvin thought in his heart. He scolded his mother but said very cheerfully, President Wilson, don't worry. Since I have agreed to this matter, I will definitely take care of it to the end. If Ju doesn't buy it, I will definitely find a buyer and sell it for 200,000 yuan. If no one else buys it, I will pay for it myself. Jacob felt relieved and nodded. I don't care about the money, the main thing is that I don't want this BA5 tard named Ju to escape again. Inside the store. When the man saw Peter mentioning the bronze Buddha, he stopped talking. He hesitated and asked him again, What do you think happened to the bronze Buddha? Peter said, It's the same thing I said just now. I don't think it is something from the Ming dynasty. The man's cold sweat oozed from his pores. He was afraid that Peter would see it. So he leaned back subconsciously, and then said, What about that? Please take a closer look. Peter saw the other person's nervousness and anxiety and also said. Seeing the beads of sweat on his forehead and temples, he smiled lightly. Took out a piece of paper and handed it over, saying with a smile, Don't be nervous, wipe off the sweat first. As soon as these words came out, both the acting boy and Jacob and Irvin in the car couldn't help but feel a thump in their hearts. Thinking to themselves, he must have seen it. The boy was already stumbling a little, and he covered it up in a poor way. No. I'm not nervous. It is really from the Ming dynasty, I'm not lying to you. Irvin couldn't help but open the screen in the car. He scolded, DMN waste. You shouldn't be nervous at this time, what the H3LL are you thinking about? Isn't this just going to be trapped by him? Jacob was also very annoyed and scolded, DMN, I didn't expect this B5 star to be a fcuking old fox, fcuck him. After saying that, he waved his hand. Irvin, I'll go home and pack my things, and I'll fly to the airport early tomorrow morning. Please remember to help me with the bronze Buddha, and just give me the money later. After saying that, he opened the door and got out of the car. Irvin said helplessly and apologetically, I'm sorry, President Wilson. It doesn't matter if this matter is a failure, please let me think about it again. I will definitely come up with a way to mess with him. Jacob ignored him through a leg and tried to step outside the car. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Peter's voice came from Irvin's mobile phone. You really don't need to be nervous. I'm not saying you lied to me. I just feel that this bronze Buddha does not have the characteristics of the Ming dynasty. Somewhat similar to the characteristics of the Northern Song dynasty. Northern Song dynasty? The man was confused. He was not very good at history and couldn't help but ask. When was the Northern Song dynasty? Peter explained, AD 960? 1127 was the Northern Song dynasty. And 1127 to 1279 was the Southern Song dynasty. If I look at it, your bronze Buddha is at least 400 years older than Xuanda. In the car when Jacob heard this, he dropped his buttocks and sat back down. Then he pulled back his outgoing leg and asked Irvin in surprise. Irvin, is that bronze Buddha from the Northern Song dynasty? Irvin was stunned for a moment, then came back to his senses and cursed. Bah! This idiot says it is from the Northern Song dynasty. Why didn't he say it was from the Northern Wei dynasty? That's bull 5 hit. Jacob said, what if it's really from the Northern Song dynasty? Irvin asked him, President Wilson, you are also a veteran in the antique circle. You must have heard of many pickups leaking. But have you ever heard of someone who can pick up a leaking thing from a counterfeit seller? Master Cheng is the master of counterfeiting. Can he tell when this thing was made? Jacob asked, then what if he got a punch in the eye? After all, he also said that the skin of the bronze Buddha was already damaged when he collected it. What if it interfered with his judgment? Irvin waved his hand, it's impossible, President Wilson. He can't be discerning. Don't listen to his stories. In the antique business, you can hear any story, but you can't believe it. I used to paint in the style of traditional Chinese painting. I deceived foreigners with the Mona Lisa. I fucking admire myself for the story I made up. After that, Irvin said again, Master Cheng said that the skin of the bronze Buddha was damaged when it was collected. Do you really believe it? It's just his story. Didn't we also make up a story to tell Peter that this thing is an ancestral inheritance from my little brother's family? Maybe Master Cheng renovated it and then made up a story to deceive us for another 10,000 yuan. Jacob asked him anxiously, then you still want me to buy it? Isn't this a waste of 100,000 yuan for him? Irvin quickly explained, I mean, maybe, it's possible. It's not necessarily a certainty. Besides, you won't suffer any loss if you buy it. I will tell you why you will not suffer a loss. Jacob quickly explained, I am not afraid of suffering a loss. I don't want to be fooled, and I won't be happy if you are fooled. As he said that, he expressed his worries again. Irvin, I'm not complaining about you or questioning you. I just want to say, does that thing exist? Maybe it's really from the Northern Song dynasty? Irvin said with great certainty, impossible, absolutely impossible. As he said this, Irvin knew that Jacob's suspicious and indecisive character, as well as his self-confidence that he thought he was possessed by the god of luck, had been possessed by Peter. After his words were activated, he continued, President Wilson, let's change the metaphor. Is it possible for you to buy real Hermes in a workshop that makes fake Hermes? Besides, it doesn't mean that he went to a workshop that makes fake Hermes. It's so outrageous to buy a real Hermes here. It's like you went to a fake Hermes workshop and bought a Hermes that was used and signed by the Queen of Britain during her lifetime. Isn't this pure nonsense? Jacob held his chin and said solemnly, what you said does make sense, but Ju suddenly said that this bronze Buddha is from the Song dynasty. What's the purpose? Irvin shook his head and said, I don't know either. I guess for this BA5 tard it is already obvious that we are playing tricks on him. He must be taking advantage of the opportunity to play with us. That makes sense. Jacob nodded and said, I think this dog is also playing tricks on us.